What if I told you there's a photograph of a woman who was born decades before the United States even existed, before Mozart composed his most famous symphonies, and before Napoleon's rise to power? This is the story of Hannah Gorby, the earliest born person ever captured on camera. Born in 1746, 10 years before Mozart and 23 years before Napoleon, Hannah lived long enough to witness a world transformed by revolutions, wars, and inventions. But the most remarkable moment of her long life came in 1840 when she posed for a photograph at the age of 94. This image connects two worlds, the 18th century, steeped in tradition, and the dawn of modern photography in the 19th century. How was this moment captured? Why is it so significant, and what does it reveal about the power of photography to bridge history and humanity? Before we step into Hannah Gorby's extraordinary story, take a second to hit that subscribe button. Join us as we uncover the most fascinating stories from history, from the monumental to the personal, each one as remarkable as this. Don't miss out on these incredible journeys into the past. Now, let's dive in. Hannah Gorby was born in 1746, during a time when the world was vastly different. The American Revolution was still 3 decades away, the Industrial Revolution hadn't yet begun, and electricity was an unimaginable concept. Life was slower, harder, and more connected to the rhythms of nature. Hannah's life spanned an era of incredible change, from the Enlightenment to the beginnings of the modern age. She lived through the American and French revolutions, the Napoleonic Wars, and the rise of industrialization. And at the age of 94, she did something no one of her generation had done: she sat for a photograph. This wasn't just any photograph. It was taken during the early years of photography, when the daguerreotype was the latest technological marvel. Invented in 1839, the daguerreotype was a labor-intensive process that required long exposure times and precise chemical preparation. For Hannah, sitting for this photograph would have been a completely new and perhaps daunting experience. Unlike today's cameras, which can capture an image in milliseconds, early cameras required subjects to remain perfectly still for several minutes. Even the slightest movement could ruin the shot. The photograph of Hannah Gorby is more than a portrait. It's a time capsule, a link to a world that feels almost mythical today. Looking at her image, you see not just a person but the weight of nearly a century of history. Her expression, her posture, and even the way the light falls on her face tell a story of resilience, longevity, and adaptation to a world that had changed in ways she could never have imagined when she was a child. Let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer significance of this moment. Mozart, one of history's greatest composers, never lived to see photography. Napoleon, a man who reshaped Europe, never had his likeness captured by a camera. But Hannah Gorby, a woman born before either of them, did. Her photograph is a powerful reminder that history is not just about famous figures and grand events, it's also about ordinary people whose lives intersect with extraordinary moments. This image also highlights the early potential of photography as a medium. In the 19th century, painting and sculpture were the primary ways to preserve someone's likeness, but these were time-consuming and accessible only to the wealthy. Photography changed everything. It democratized the ability to capture and preserve human life, making it possible for ordinary people like Hannah Gorby to leave a visual legacy for future generations. The photograph of Hannah Gorby is one of those rare artifacts that bridges the gap between the past and the present. It reminds us that even as time marches on, the human experience, our hopes, challenges, and memories, remains universal. And through photography, we can connect with people who lived centuries ago, seeing them not as distant figures but as real individuals with stories worth remembering. If this story has intrigued you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. History is full of these incredible moments, and we're here to bring them to life. Join us as we explore more stories that reveal the beauty, complexity, and humanity of the past.